Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with life coach Steve Rowell. Today is Tuesday, March the 12th, 2019. It's 8 a.m. in New York, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles. It's actually 12 noon in London and Sydney, Australia. I think you're around 11 a.m. But wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. I think it was actually 11 p.m., but that's all right. Anyway, we're back to doing the podcast in our daylight savings time mode here in America, which hasn't quite hit Europe yet. Although, Steve, from what I understand, that you get that in about 3 weeks. Is that right?
Oh, to be honest, I've got absolutely no idea.
No
Time's
idea.
an illusion.
That's all right. I,
I
I,
just wait until my mobile phone changes the time, and then
yeah, all right.
I know it's happened.
I was just reaching for one of those interesting, obscure facts that doesn't have any kind of negative consequence. So it's a nice, light way to start the show. That's all it is. So, no big deal. But we were talking about before the show. We were talking about how we're both doing a lot of work this week, and that's a good thing. I mean, we've had, I'm sure, our own individual reasons why we needed to, and the thing, of course, is that when you're feeling the need to do that kind of work in a big way, that usually means there's something going on that's not exactly high contrast, let's put it that way. So you're trying to deal with what's going on, and hey, let's be honest, that's what happens with a lot of life, right? Just dealing with what goes on. But the good news is that we are doing the work, right? And when we do that work, it has a cumulative effect, and it's easy to forget that, but I think it's really important because that. I mean, I was talking with Louis D'Souza on Monday morning after that podcast that we did that morning, and we were both agreeing that the more that you do this, the better you get at it. And I told him then I was really determined to do some serious focusing yesterday, which I did. And he told me, well, the vibe that I was giving him was that it was about 70% true, which was pretty good. And I agreed because, back when I first started Law of Attraction, my commitment was like 3%. So that's a huge jump. And I think that happens cumulatively. That's my theory. I mean, do you think so? What do you think?
It does indeed. I mean, I think we as you work through your life, when you start doing this stuff, when you first start on your journey with the LOA stuff,
Hmm.
it feels really difficult.
Yeah.
It feels scary. It feels unknown, and I think once you start using it and gradually building up your confidence with it, it's a gradual process. It's not just you can't just instantly change your belief systems into a new way of thinking. You can't suddenly think, oh, okay, so the law of attraction, I can have anything and create anything I want. So okay, I'll create $1 million now. When you've been earning less than $10,000 a year for
Hmm.
the last 20, 30 years, it's not something that you can just switch and turn on like
Right.
that. You've got to. Well, we've talked about it again. It's this micro shifting thing, isn't it? So you gradually, I suppose that's what it is. Um, the gradual move and the gradual build up of confidence around what you're doing, in
Hmm.
effect, and just small little micro shifts in your belief system gradually through the weeks, months, years that you're using this stuff, and it gradually builds up to a point where you've got, like you say, 75% belief in it. When you first started, you were sort of 1, 2, 3%, and now
Yeah.
it's grown to that level over that period of time, which is fantastic because you're at a point now where you're almost at 100. Well,
I know we're getting close.
you've only got 25% left to go.
And I sometimes wonder, what does it feel like to be at 100%? When you have that level of focus. I mean, I was last night. Last night I actually did something I have not done for months now. I didn't sleep. I slept for 4 hours and then I was awake. I actually got up. I did some work, went back to bed about 3 hours later. Um, Tried to sleep the last couple hours that were available to me. Couldn't do it. So just wasn't able to get into that sleep mode. So I figured, well, I'm lying here. I might as well do something with it. So I tried to see what I could do in terms of just keeping my focus where I wanted to. And 70% was about right. About 7 times out of 10, 7 minutes out of 10, or whatever you want to measure it, I was able to keep my mind focused on where I wanted. And then the other 30%, it would just kind of slide off to, the subconscious tape playing of some kind,
Yeah,
whether it be
yeah.
music playing in the back of my head or, some topic I didn't want to go to or whatever. But, 70-30 is good. But I like the idea of like you said, 100%. Can you imagine 100%? Can you imagine what it's like to always have that ideal focus every single day? I mean, wow, that's almost mind blowing.
It'd be great to do it every single day. I think I do that sometimes. When I'm riding, like we talked about before, riding the wave
Mm,
of being on that that wave of energy that you've got. So, for example, the stuff with the church and everything, I focused on that so much and in such a positive way with the outcomes that I wanted and how that'd feel to me once it was all done. Um, that I went into those meetings. I already knew exactly what people were going to say, what they were going to do, because I'd already visualized those and I already felt the feeling. So I 100% knew what the outcomes were going to be and how it was all going to pan out. And exactly that happened. So,
mm,
and being in that place is absolutely awesome. But then it's got to the stage now where the newspaper articles ready to go. I've had the interview; it's all been done. That was difficult for me. It brought up some of the past feelings and things that I had to go back through. So I've
oh,
had to deal and work through those. But then the main part is it's gone on 2 weeks now, and the article keeps getting pulled every Sunday
no,
because of things happening in that are obviously time sensitive. My piece isn't
right,
really time sensitive,
right.
so I understand why. It's fine, but I'm focusing on it not being pulled. I'm focusing on not wanting it to be pulled, and this is what I've been doing. So I'm creating it being pulled every week.
Isn't that annoying? You think you got it, you're like, oh no, I did it wrong. I didn't do it the way I wanted to do it. Oh no.
And that's what I've been doing. So I had to have a session with my coach, um, just to bring that up and say, look, this is, I know what I'm doing. I've accepted what I'm doing, but I'm just stuck and struggling to change that mindset because I do get stuck sometimes. Everybody does. I mean, it's just normal. We're human. Um, and since then, I've been focusing on other things that I'm wanting in my life and just letting that. I've let that go now, and just yeah, it'll happen when it happens. And I'm not going to focus on it so much. I'll focus on the stuff that I'll get moving forward from that. So I'm speaking to the charity. I'm speaking to these other people that are involved in what I want to do next, and focusing on those things instead of the actual article.
Mm.
Um, so this Sunday, it's going to get published.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. I love that. And the fact is that, like you said, you focus on the negative, that doesn't work. But when you focus on what you want instead, that's the part that works. So
Yeah.
that obviously that's the story you want to be telling yourself. Do you get the same experience that I get where if I am if I'm dealing with something that I don't want and I have this rocket of desire and I'm trying to change over to what I do want and often I'll go through what you just did, what you just described of, oh, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. And I'll come to the realization, nope, I can't do it that way. And then I'll start trying to tell the news story. Do you ever get the experience that the news story is so much shorter than the old story? Because that's what it always seems like to me. It seems like the old story, man, I could go on about that one forever. That one I could go into intimate detail about. I could just spell I could take a half an hour to an hour preaching on it. But the news story, I'm done with that one in 5 seconds. I mean, it's just not even close. And I guess that's where we have to get really creative and start, embellishing them and really getting into the feeling of it and imagining the experience of it and just trying to kind of map it out in as much detail as we can. But boy, I don't know why that is so much harder, but it is.
I think it's because the subconscious mind is used to focusing on the negative things, so it's got used to building those stories a lot more effectively than it has in the with the positive side. But like you say, it's about focusing not just on the outcome, but the feelings that come
Hmm.
with the outcome that you want. And then I think once you've got the feelings, that's when the subconscious then can start going, so if I have this feeling, then I can go and do this, and this might happen. That person might behave in this way, or so you can start building your story then with the feelings. I think it's all from the feelings. If you haven't
Hmm.
got a feeling of what it's going to be like, it is difficult to then
Oh,
attach
yeah.
it to an outcome that you want to experience, isn't it?
It's very hard. And in fact, the the process I'm finding is it's almost like I'm overcoming a mental block against positive.
Mm.
That's what it feels like. I mean, because the negative, I can flow with that so easily. The positive, it's like I don't dare to create it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't dare to create it. Like there's going to be something wrong with creating it, or it won't come out right, or I'll be disappointed, or something. I'm not sure exactly what. But for whatever reason, especially when I'm first trying to do it, I was experiencing it just yesterday, actually partly last night, with something that I've been trying to manifest. That actually, Louise and I are both trying to manifest. Um, and the focus is there at times, and yet
yeah,
there are also I can simultaneously say when I'm trying to focus on it, and I know I need to get into the feeling place, and I can't seem to get there. And I know I need to start creating the details. I can't seem to create the details. And in the midst of that, it feels like, what does it feel like? I'm at a loss for this is what happens. What's happening right now? This is what happens. I just kind of blank. It's just everything just stops. Now if I could start telling a really sad story or a depressing story, or one of my normal stories, oh boy, I can just spit those right out. It's the one where I'm trying to create the news stories, like uh, pull it out of the tongue. It just won't come out sometimes. There
I
are other
think
times
well,
it comes out better, and I know it comes out easier when I'm feeling better. That much I do know for
yeah,
sure. That's really, really clear. It's also really clear that most often when I'm trying to create these stories, I am starting from a position of not feeling good, and it's not always so easy when you're in that place to quickly climb out and feel good so you can start manifesting properly. So that's definitely got to be part of the equation right there. But I
it
don't
is.
think it's a full
I think you're right. Definitely. I think what you the key to this is getting yourself into a place of gratitude, something that you're grateful for, something that's good that's happened in your life. So
Mm,
what I find works really well is to imagine the feelings of a past event that has got similar feelings to the ones that I want to feel with the new outcome I'm trying to create.
mm,
If I'm feeling bad, like for example that the article got pulled again, I was disappointed, I was fed up. So I had to get myself out of that because I can't create from that space because
not
all I'm
really.
going to do is create more things to be fed up and depressed about. So right, okay, I'll accept I'm feeling fed up and depressed, which is fine, not a problem. I'm allowed to feel like that because this has
Yes.
happened, so that's okay. But I don't want to choose to feel like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll use some of my tools I've got, which will then be right. Okay, do I need to hold on to this feeling? No, I don't. Okay, so I can let that go. So what can I replace it with? And I'll take myself to I don't know. Okay, driving the Aston Martin.
Wow.
So we took the Aston Martin for a test drive. I'll take myself to that, and I'll feel how I felt when I was in the car. I'm doing it now. So a big grin on my face, I can feel it physically. Feel myself filling up with this joyful feeling, this happy, grateful feeling. Now, now I'm in a place where I can start creating
Mm-hmm.
because I've got those feelings already, and now I can attach those feelings to that outcome that I'm wanting. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It also leads to a question in my mind. The question I have is, okay, how high do you have to feel? How good does good have to be?
As good as you want it to be, you can choose that, can't you? So as long as you're choosing a past experience that has the same feelings as the outcome, or that you believe the outcome that you're wanting to create would have, then you've won. You've done it, haven't you?
Well, that's true. I guess what I'm thinking is, like right now, we're talking and we're doing the show, and I like doing that, and that's always a enjoyable activity. I wouldn't say it's super high vibration, but it's definitely in the positive range. It feels good. I enjoy it. But it's not intense. It's not whoa. It's not that kind of a feeling. It's more like, oh, this feels good. Like right now, I have my cat in my lap as we're doing this, and the cat's asleep, and he's purring, and he's not asleep actually. He's purring, but he's enjoying being there. It's very obvious that he's enjoying being there, and that's nice. That's pleasant. But it's not that super high feeling. And that's what I'm trying to inquire about. I mean, the really high vibration is ultimately where we want to be, but we aren't always there. And like I suppose I could probably find some way to get there from where I am right now because I'm a lot closer than I was, say, at 3 o'clock this morning. But it's still it's not part of this experience. And I guess what I'm getting at is so much of what we think about and what we remember about stuff that feels good or feels bad or what feels whatever is experiencing it now. I mean, to a certain extent,
Yeah.
we can remember it, but like I can remember like my wedding day. My wedding day was a joyous, wonderful day. It felt great. It felt, it was a pretty high feeling day. Can I get myself back into that feeling place? I can get close, but I don't really get that same feeling again. So I guess what I'm saying is getting to that upper level is the challenging part for me. That's the part where I'd love to be able to get there more often because I know that's where I do my best creating. But that's the step I always seem to stumble on.
I suppose this comes down to celebrating again. So because it's all about the chemicals that are in your body. So I can get right, perfect example. So if I think about something really bad that happened to me in my past, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not going to do it now. But
good.
if I did if I did that right now, those feelings will come flooding back, and I could go in. In fact, I have done it by accident.
I'm sure. It's easy to do.
Yeah, so I've just done that now, and I can feel my chest is tightening up. I can feel anxiety. There's actually pain going up into my neck now. So I think you do pull because your subconscious, if you've had bad experiences, it's like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, if you've had bad experiences, a lot of people get stuck. If they've had a bad experience in the past, um, 70 to 80% of their life, they'll be living in that experience.
Hmm.
They'll be having that anxiety feeling over and over again, day by day, week by week, hour by hour. They're constantly in fight and flight mode because of
Sure.
it's what people call post-traumatic stress disorder, similar
Right.
sort of thing. But again, it is a choice to be there and to stay there. People don't realise that it is. So I can choose to put back. I've still got those feelings here. I'm starting to smile now because I'm actively thinking about something else
Hmm.
that's going to make me happy. So I'm thinking about my wife currently.
Uh-huh.
Um, and now that's dissipating. That those anxious feelings are going away,
Right.
and they're being replaced with something happy, and I can bring myself back out of it. So
Yeah.
I can actively control the feelings and emotions that are in my body.
Hmm.
But this is only because I've practiced it for years and years and years about doing that. I can take myself somewhere and then bring myself back out of it, but out of choice.
Hmm.
And that's what it's about. You can take yourself back to your wedding day. If you sat there and you got yourself right into the situation and remembered it perfectly, you would feel exactly the same as you did when you were back there. It's impossible not to because your subconscious still has that connection to it.
So what you're saying is that when I say that I'm not getting the full feeling, it's just that I'm not focusing on it long enough.
Possibly, yeah, yeah, possibly. For me, anyway, in my
Okay.
experience,
Okay.
it is a lot easier to do it for the negative things, though. I don't know why, but it just is. Um, Hang on, I've just got some messages popping up on my screen. Yeah, so for the negative stuff, I can get myself back there really quickly.
Hmm.
Pulling myself back out of it takes a little bit longer
Yeah.
because
How
I
about
still spend. Go on.
I was just gonna say, how about like I was talking about, like using the Abraham Hicks scale, like around 7 or 8 is like middle, is like neutral, and everything above that's positive, everything below that's negative. Let's say you're at 5 or 6, so you're in the low positive range, and you want to get up
Yeah.
to 2 or 3. So is it about finding an event like thinking about the wedding and just staying with it for a longer period of time until you finally rise up to the 2 or 3 or even the 1?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because it's individual for every single person.
True.
If
Yeah.
you take back to your wedding day, you said it was really you were really up there, but were you really, or were you still? only on a 5 or 6?
No, I do remember on the wedding day I wasn't at one, but I was at least three and probably two.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was, and it was a fairly steady high all day long. In fact, um, the one thing that this is about the only thing that was negative. Well, actually, there were two things. There were two things that were negative that day. One was one was a funny negative. Um, the limousine that brought my wife to the place where we had the event had it was it was put out there by a company that apparently didn't really believe in keeping their vehicles in top mechanical shape. So
Oh,
this one did not have a working reverse. And they got to the venue and they got to a place where the only thing to do was to back up so they can complete a turn and they couldn't back up. So my wife gets on the cell to my brother, who was my best man, and says, I need you to bring a bunch of guys out here and push the car back. So I'm standing waiting for her to show up, and she's actually a little bit late. And all of a sudden, my brother comes up to me with all these men from the audience following him, saying, "There's no problem. Don't worry about it. We'll be right back." And then half the audience leaves. It created just a little stress for me. And we actually have a great picture of all these guys pushing the limousine backward. But so that was the one minor event. The other one that was kind of a negative was that the day was such a fun day and there was so much good going on that it went fast. And that's not really terribly negative. It's just like, whoa, boom, it was done. And it was like a good 4 hour event, but oh my God, how fast that went. That was like the worst part of the day.
but have you seen what's just happened?
But
I asked you to think about your wedding day,
yeah.
and instantly you focused on the two negative things.
Oh
So
yeah, of
maybe
course.
that's yeah. So maybe when you're trying to get up to this two and three, that's what's happening. So when you're sitting there and you're sat in that and trying to get your vibration back up from low down if something's negative has happened, maybe that's what's stopping you getting right up to the top because there are these two things that your subconscious is going, hang on a minute, but it wasn't that good because this happened.
Possibly, possibly.
Because
I,
that's exactly what just happened then.
well, also, I was trying to answer the question because the question you raised was, well, how high was it? And I was saying,
Yeah.
well, it was pretty high. This is the lowest part of what was a high day. So that was my way of answering that. Is that stuff that I think about a lot? I really don't think about the second one at all. The first one I think about occasionally just because it makes a great story. It's a fun story to tell people. And so now it's actually evolved into a laugh.
Yeah.
It's evolved into
Yeah.
that's a fun thing, because Louise and I have decided every wedding has to have one glitch so you can have a good story to tell out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I
But
suppose. Yeah. I don't know if mine did. I don't know if mine had the glitches. Apart
what I
from
do
the
remember what I remember about that day though is the feeling that, and I know this is the gauge I'm kind of using. I remember how it felt. I remember there was like a constant feeling throughout the day, and it was a little bit on edge, just a little bit on edge because you're wondering, is the day going to go right? Are the guests going to be happy? Is everything going to be working out just great? But it was also a high edge. It was the edge of, oh, oh, what's happening next? Oh, oh, what's going on? And it felt good. It was just like, whoa, what is this? That was the way it felt all day long, and that's the feeling I have not been able to get back to. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe what I do is focus more, spend more time, imagining or remembering the event, and see if I can get back there. Maybe that's what it's
yeah,
about. Yeah.
yeah. Because there are. I mean, it's funny because I get asked this a lot, and I'll read the question that I get asked a lot
Okay.
by by people. This is one that comes up all the time. You've probably seen it on the groups as well. So I've been practicing the law of attraction for a long time now, but nothing I want shows up for me.
Hmm.
I think about and focus on what I want, but still nothing shows up for me. I just keep getting the same old things showing up. Why?
Yeah, that's a pretty common question. That one that
Yeah.
you can find one of those every day, I think, if you look on Facebook. Maybe more than one.
And we've just covered it there, really, haven't we? That's what we've been talking about. 'Cause it's just
Yeah.
happens to be open on my screen. Um,
Well, that just happens. That's law of attraction.
Yeah, it is. But again, it's because the majority of people are creating the reality, if you like, by accident. They're not doing it on purpose. They're not doing it from a place of creation. It's just they're just running along with life, and things are showing up that are all based around the subconscious programs that are constantly going way and going around in these cycles. So you've got you've got that happening, and my answer to it was you've got to get everything in alignment.
Mm.
So you've got your thought process in alignment, your feelings in alignment, and then your actions that you're taking in alignment as well with what you want to show up. And it's those three things that are the most important. Well, they are the three things that need to be there. And a lot of people only tend to have the first sort of one, which is they'll focus on the thought, and that's it, and it'll stop there, and then it won't get into the feeling, which is what we've just been talking about. Whereby, how do you get that feeling? How do you have the thought, focus on the thing that you want, and then turn it into the energy of the feeling, and then take the action based on the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's the key. That's the key to this stuff.
While you were describing that, an idea came to my mind, or maybe it came to my heart. I'm not sure which. It could have been either one.
Well, that's where it should be. That's where it should be.
Yeah. Um, a number of months ago, Patty Framo used to do the Monday afternoon podcast with me. She's also a life coach. She had to stop because she had a job change that made it impossible for her to continue. But she gave me a really good suggestion one day when I was having a really tough day, feeling really low, and I was complaining that I couldn't even seem to remember what the various processes or practices are that I could do to climb out. I couldn't even remember what they were. She says, "Well, why don't you just make a list of them? I mean, when you're not when you're feeling depressed, but when you're feeling better, just start writing down what are the processes that you've used, meditation or mirror exercises or affirmations or whatever else. You just have." So I did. I made a list. I've got like 16 items on the list. What occurred to me just now is I wonder if perhaps what I also need to do is create a list of happy events in my life for me
That'd be good.
to reference and work through one at a time on a regular basis, trying to play each one out to the point where I can feel it the way I felt it the first time.
That'd be a good. Absolutely, that's a fantastic idea. That is a
Yeah.
fantastic idea. Yeah. Because what you can do as well, if you think about it, you can pick situations and life events from each area. So, for example, if it's something around work, for example, the workshops that that you're wanting to set up and get
Hmm.
get going. So if you think back to the past of something that you've done in your work life which has made you feel really good,
Right.
that's one you can use for that. And then you've got relationships, that's your wedding, and then you've
Yeah.
got I don't know when you try to create something I don't know like something that you want, an inanimate object like a car or a house or whatever.
Hmm.
When you bought your first house, or so you've got all these different things that you can pull on. You can pull the experience back into your awareness right now to then create with.
Yeah.
So it's yeah,
So
fantastic,
I'm thinking
absolutely
having that
fantastic
list
idea.
and maybe make that a practice, a daily practice of we work through at least one of those items on the list, or maybe more than one item on the list, and just spend as much time as you can getting into that really, really good feeling place that you experienced when that event happened. I have a feeling that's probably a strong thing to do. Jason's asked a couple of questions, and I wanted to share his questions and get your take on it, see what your answers would be. First, he says, "What are your thoughts on subliminals? Do they really help with manifesting what you want?"
To be honest, I haven't got much experience with them and I haven't used them, so I can't answer the question.
Well, that's fair enough. Um, I can tell you, Jason, what my experience with subliminals is, and I'm afraid it's not a good one. I tried making a subliminal tape and got a little pillow speaker and plugged it into my phone and tried playing it at night to give myself some subliminal messages of, about things that I wanted and so forth. And I can tell you what I manifested. What I manifested was a lack of sleep and a headache. It turns out that when I one of the things that I need, I think probably most people need when they sleep, is to just go into sleep undisturbed. Not a whole lot of background noise or anything like that, especially background noise for me because I'm very noise sensitive. Um, and just even, and I had the volume really, really low. I mean, you could barely hear it, but it was enough to screw up my sleep. So it worked very badly for me to put it mildly. And then to make matters worse, the little pillow speaker I put under my pillow, it hurt my ear because my ear was laying on the pillow speaker.
Probably not the best bit of planning went into that.
Not really. I tried very hard, but it just did not work really well.
I think the thing with subliminal messages and things like that is if you haven't created it for yourself, if it's done by somebody else, then I don't think it's as effective because what you're doing when you're visualizing and then feeling and then taking action is you're creating in effect your own subliminals in your own mind anyway.
Hmm.
So why do you need an outside force putting them in there whilst you lay down going to sleep or whatever? I don't think it's. I know that some people do use it and they might get something from it, but for me, I'd rather be in control of it myself and be able to choose what I put in there
I agree with you.
and what I
I think it's
use as well.
important, actually. And by the way, the subliminals I created. I mean, I didn't use
I
them.
think that's what I do.
I actually recorded my own. But it turns out that hearing my own voice while I'm trying to sleep actually keeps me from sleeping. So it kind of backfired.
Yeah.
Let's just say
So
the pillow speaker never got used again after that. It got thrown onto a shelf, and that was it.
I bet you still got it, haven't you?
Probably somewhere. I'm not sure. It's probably in the bedroom. I don't know. I haven't seen it in a while.
Get
Um,
it on eBay.
yeah, right. Well, I think I paid all of $2 for it. It was not like real expensive, So. Also, he's asking, can you use more than one technique at a time to speed up the manifesting process?
You can use as many as you want. I mean, what I tend to find is I've got a list of, I don't know, similar to yours, a big list of different techniques. What you'll tend to find is because everybody's different and everybody creates in a different way. So you'll have people that use um, that find meditation works for them. You'll find people that actively have to speak to their subconscious and work with it themselves. All sorts of different techniques that you can use, but it's finding the ones that work for you because they don't all work for everybody. I mean, I've got a list of, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, I don't know, there's loads on there, but I only tend to use two of them, which work for me, and the rest of them, even if I try using them, they're just like, I don't know why. Nothing happens. I just use them and go, well, don't feel very good now. You know which ones work for you. You can still either make you feel great or they won't. But yeah, it's about finding the ones that work for you, Jason, and sticking with those. Really, that's what I find.
I agree with you 100%. In fact, I also agree that how many do you want to use is up to you. I try to use as many as I can. Literally, how many can I get into the day without interfering with my day? That's what I aim for. And I have a minimum of 2 a day, minimum. So can you use more than one? I would say not only can you use more than one, you would be smart to use more than one. In fact, the goal, excuse me, the goal in my opinion is to do it not just to do the practices, not just do the processes, but to have them carry over into the rest of the day, so that the more time I'm spending in the day in some way focused on what it is that I want and off of what I don't want, which is my big challenge. And I think most people's big challenge. Whatever I can do to contribute to doing that more and more during the day, I tend to get better results. I get the worst results when I do one process and then spend the rest of the day focusing on what I don't want. That's
That's it.
that's the worst possible result you can get is right out of that.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm constantly throughout the day. It's not just about get up in the morning. I might meditate for I don't know 15, 20 minutes and then that's it. No. I'll be constantly checking my thought processes throughout the day. If something comes up that's a challenge, then I'll check myself, check my thought processes, check how I actually want to feel,
Mhm.
and then use whichever technique is suitable and appropriate at that point in time for me to use. So, for example, if I'm in a busy supermarket or somewhere, I'm not going to sit down and start meditating on the floor, am I? It's not
Yeah.
practical. It's not practical. But then I can use something like the Sedona method, or and do it inside my mind and sort of speak to my subconscious and get rid of what I don't want and replace it with something I do. So it's about choosing what works in the specific situation you're in throughout your day. Because I'm constantly doing it on a hour to hour, minute to minute basis. Sometimes I'll be running on um, I'm running on autopilot. Don't realise I'm on autopilot. And all of a sudden I'll go, ah, get back to the present moment. I'm aware I'm being running on autopilot. I'm doing this. I don't really want to be, so let's change that. And it's like that throughout the day. And like you say, it's choosing to use the ones that work for you and that are appropriate for wherever you are and what you're doing, really.
And that speaks to the idea of try everyone you can try, at least
Yeah.
once, maybe twice, just so you can find out, is it effective for you? Because really, the only way to know whether or not a process works is to try it and see if you get a result and a positive result, one that you like. Um, and it's going to be different for every person. And something I like to remember that Joel told me about, which is no matter what you're doing, no matter what practice you're doing, no matter whether you believe in the law of attraction or not, no matter what spiritual practices you've got, no matter any of it, it all comes down to what you believe. If you believe
That's
it,
it.
then it's true. If you don't believe it, it's not true. It's literally that straightforward. It's what you believe. Do you believe it? Do you believe that if you take 2 aspirin, your headache will go away? Then it will go away. It has nothing to do with the aspirin. It has to do with your belief. Do you believe that if you believe in the law of attraction exists and will work for you? If you do, then guess what? The law of attraction exists and it works for you. If you don't, guess what? It doesn't exist and it doesn't work for you. It's just that straightforward. What do you believe?
And you can, and then I suppose the next step on that is you can choose what you want to believe and don't want to believe. So you can
Yes,
change those belief systems step by step as well. So there's tools to do that as well, isn't there?
that's
Which
right.
is which is great because if you've been brought up and run a certain way to sit in a place of lack and of poverty, and this is where you're supposed to be, actually you can change that
Mm.
if you decide to by changing your mindset, doing new things, making new choices, and gradually shifting away to a place of abundance. So there's lots of people that have done that throughout their lives. I've seen them do it. I've got clients that have done it, and the whole process just blows me away every time that someone's gone from this place of being, oh no, I can't afford this, I can't afford this, this is happening, this bad thing's happening. All of a sudden they're like, what's just happened? Where am I? How's it? How have I got all these things? What? And it's that change. It's just huge, but it's happened gradually over a period of time. But because it's happened gradually, they haven't noticed it until they've suddenly got there and gone, "Wow!"
Oh yeah, everybody
Which
else
is
notices it except you. You're the one who notices it last.
yeah, that's it.
It's a strange thing, very strange thing. I mean, it reminds me of the story that I've told about how I was working on a process that Sean Aker. Are you familiar with Sean Aker? Sean Aker was a graduate from Harvard University, and he was one of the first students in the positive psychology program that they started there a few years back. And he was also a teacher's assistant to the guy who chairs the department. Um, and he has since developed an entire career based on teaching the principles that have come out of the various studies that the positive psychology movement have created and introduced to the population. Well, in his first book called The Happiness Advantage, he shared 5 different things that studies show if you do them, doing any one of them is going to help you get into a better place and be more
Yeah,
productive and have a happier life and so forth. And if you can somehow manage to do all 5 of them, then it's a huge boost. But he recommends just doing like 1 or 2 of them. Well, one of those processes is every time you go somewhere, and I would do this when I would go out on my walks on the Rails to Trails path nearby. Um, every time that you're out doing something and there are people that you're passing on foot, not so much in cars, but on foot, um, as you pass somebody, you want to either greet them or smile at them or both. And the rule I follow is kind of like the distance rule. If they're farther away, you just kind of wave and smile. If they're close by and you're passing shoulder to shoulder, then you also greet them. Hi, how you doing? Something like that. And I made a practice to do that and try to put a smile into it and just keep doing that. And it was hard for me at first because I've always been very introverted, so it was tough for me to get it going. But I finally got it going, and I was doing it every single time I went out and every single day. And it kind of almost got to be habitual, which was good. I had to remember to do it, but once I got into it, you get to that flow, right? The flow gets going, and so it becomes easier to keep going with it. And so that's what would happen. And every single day I'd go out and do this. Well, one day I went out and I just wasn't feeling up to it. I mean, I was not having a great day. I was not having a bad day. I just wasn't having a great day. It was like, sort of like, things don't feel quite right, but they don't feel really bad. It was one of those days. So I just decided, oh, screw the interaction. I'm just going to go out and take the walk. And as I'm walking along, these people are passing me and they're giving me these big, big smiles. I'm thinking, what's going on
Absolutely.
here? What is going on? I don't understand. I liked it, but this is a different experience. Why was I experiencing this? So I took out my phone and looked at the phone in selfie mode and saw I had this big grin on my face. And I didn't know it. So ultimately, I guess the point of that story is ultimately it can become automatic if you just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. And it just
Absolutely.
becomes part of your new habitual programming, which is ideal.
Yeah. And that's how the subconscious mind works, isn't it? You can train it by repetition to do anything you desire and want it to do, really.
Hmm.
Which is a fantastic place to be in if you understand that you can do that.
Right.
But then it comes down to being disciplined with it and making sure that you're dedicated to changing it and keeping going until it does become habitual. That's the difficult part for most people. People start and stop and give up because they can't see the change. But even if you can't see the change, keep going and keep going and keep going, and then eventually you'll be like, ah, it's happened. And it just turns up, and that's it. It's done.
That actually is what led to the first questions that I raised in this particular podcast today, because I've been doing stuff long enough now that I recognize, well, things don't always show up when I'm wanting them to, but I should keep going anyway. But what happens over time is I'm still doing my processes, but now I'm recognizing I need to do more throughout the day. I need to I need to try to reach that good feeling throughout the day as much as I can.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I went back to square one. It's almost like I completely forgot that despite the fact that X hasn't shown up yet, I shouldn't keep doing the processes. I should keep right on going. It's almost like I forgot that part. Now I'm still doing the daily thing. I'm still doing my mirror exercises in the morning. I'm doing a little meditation at night. Louise and I do a thing we call three good things. It's kind of like a gratitude thing. Three things that happened during the day that were good things that we talk about to kind of remind ourselves and get back into the feeling of it. So I still have like my daily processes I do, but now it's gotten to the point where I want more. I want
Yeah.
I want to make it a more permanent part of my experience, knowing that if I do that, then stuff's going to flow more easily, and it's going to be easier to let go of those oars and let the stream, have its way with me.
But you say that, letting go of the oars and the universe having its way with you. But actually, by doing that, you're only giving away your power to yourself because it's you that's creating it in the first place. It's
It's
your
true.
your thoughts and feelings and actions are creating that reality. It's not the universe that's doing it for you. Yes, the
Mhm.
things in the universe are morphing and changing, and circumstances and people and places and things are turning up for you. But it's all based on what you thought, then what you felt, and the action that you've taken to create that experience in front of you. So
Mhm.
you're not actually giving any power away to anything else, which we touched on before, haven't we? With the giving it away to a higher power, you're not doing that. You are your own higher power. You're creating everything in your awareness and in your reality. So yeah,
Yeah,
letting
and yet
go of
there's
it.
something to be said for letting go. I mean, I got my wife by letting go.
Yeah,
literally.
yeah. And I know this newspaper article is going to go in on Sunday because I've let go of it now instead of worrying about whether or not it is or isn't, um, and focusing on the things that are going to happen afterwards. So yeah, you do let. It's not about letting go of your power as such. It's about letting go of an outcome turning up in a certain way and trying to
Yeah.
control the way it turns up. I think, isn't it?
Well, I think it's about letting go of the angst,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Letting go of the anxiety around something that you
Yeah.
really want to happen happening.
It's a
Because it's
strange.
that stop. Yeah, it's that stops it being creative. Because actually, if you're in that angst and that anxiety of it turning up, you're actually they're negative feelings. They're things that are going to stop it showing up because it's worry. It's not a positive energy that you're sending out, is it?
Not really, no. So what we're actually really trying to do here is we're not just trying to do our daily processes, and we're not just trying to maintain our focus. We're trying to maintain our focus on what we want without slipping into focusing on what we don't want, without realizing that we slipped into focusing on what we don't want. That's really where we're going to. We're trying to do one without the other.
And I think that the key to doing that is again, it's just checking yourself at points throughout the day. Because the easiest way to check yourself is when I started talking about the newspaper article. Then I got some anxiety. I could feel it,
Hmm.
which I'm going to have to get rid of now.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to have to do it again. But this is what it's about, you see. So now I've felt that I can feel that anxiety. Now I can check where it's coming from, and then I can use my tools to shift it, get rid of it, and replace it with something that's nice and positive, and
Hmm.
focus on something else that's going to get me back into that state of being. So, but that's what it is. It's checking. You know when you're off track because you don't feel good. You don't feel right. You feel anxious. You feel scared. You feel nervous. You feel worried. Whatever it may be. So you can check it as soon as you get a feeling that's not quite right. Stop. Get yourself into the present moment. Check it. Accept that it's there, and then decide how you want to feel afterwards. That's it. That's the whole. It's a dead simple process. It's not easy to do, but it is after practice, and that's what it's about, practicing it. But every time you feel bad, stop, check it, accept it, change it for what you do want, or choose to feel a different way, and then move forward. And that's it. That's the whole thing. That's it. You've done it.
Sarah's got a question that she wanted to ask as well. Let me get over to my notepad because it becomes easier for me to actually see it when it's there. I don't know what it is. I can't read the Facebook type; it's too small. But anyway, let's get the copy here. Hold on, something didn't quite copyright. No, not that kind of copyright. Okay. She says I've applied for a job I really want. It's my perfect dream job. Any advice or tips to help me get it?
So we're at the we've sent the application off. That's what we've done so far.
Yes. Yes.
So you've already taken action to move towards what you want, which is fantastic. So well done for that. Absolutely well done for that.
Right.
Now it's about really for me where I go with this. I'd visualize myself doing that job, having that job, seeing the paycheck come in, and getting the feelings, sitting with them, the feelings of it already being there, going to work, whatever. I don't know what job it is, but I don't know. So which desk you'll imagine your desk, imagine the people you'll be working with, imagine the how much you're going to get paid, what that's going to look like, what you're going to do with that money, where you're going to go, you're going to book a holiday. Just make up all these stories, positive stories about what's going to happen once that happens, once you've got the job, and feel that. And also, another thing that I've always done, which has worked fantastically for me, is with the actual interview process. So I'll play out the interview process
Hmm.
and how I want that to go in a positive way. So
Mhm.
I'll imagine the questions I'm going to get asked. The fact that I've already prepared for it, I know what the answers are going to be. I know what questions I'm going to ask them about the role. All these different things, and also them offering me the job at the end of the interview, or at least telling me what the next process is, and telling me that I've got through to that, and how that'll make me feel. So you can actively create how that's going to go before you get there, which is what I did with the meeting with the Church of England as well.
Right.
I created those outcomes before I even, so I knew how it was going to go before I even sat down, before I even went in that room. Which
Because you'd already
in
played it
effect,
out.
yeah, you've already played it out, you've already created the outcomes, you've felt them, and then the action is going and doing it. But you're going in there with the belief that that's exactly how it's going to happen, and that's exactly how it's going to work, and it generally does if you've done it right. But it's
Yeah.
about feeling it. You've got to feel it, and it's got to be real.
Yeah.
Then your mind believes it.
Neville Goddard says, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And
Yeah.
his process is very similar to what you just described. He actually makes it even more simplified. He says, imagine that the result has been achieved, whatever that result is. In this case, you got the job. What
Yeah.
happens immediately after you got the job? I mean, you're scanning, or maybe you're standing in front of the person who's offering you the job. Maybe you're on the phone, getting the phone call saying you've been offered the job. Whatever it is, what happens next? Do you reach out and shake hands with them? Do you do a
Yeah.
little jig? Do you
Yeah.
dance? Do you jump up and down? Do you yell "Wahoo"? Whatever, what is it that you do? And that's the thing that you keep replaying in your mind over and over again.
And guess what that is? That's celebration.
That's celebration. That is.
Celebration. So that's it. You feel the feelings and then you celebrate immediately once you've got those feelings. If you've played
Hmm.
it out, you've got to where you want to be, the outcome's happened, you've shaken hands on the job, whatever it may be, and then celebrate the hell out of it inside your body and feel those celebration feelings coming out. It's awesome.
Yeah,
It's awesome. But it works. It works. 100% works.
it does. It does. And the cool thing is, since it is a job that is your dream job, it's a job that you would love to do. It shouldn't be all that difficult to imagine what it's like to get the job and what's going to happen when you get the job. What are you going to be doing? I mean, that should be pretty easy to imagine because it's the dream job. It's the one that you really want, So you just grab those details that have always been there in the back of your mind, and that becomes the basis for what happens next,
Exactly. Fantastic, isn't
right?
it?
Yeah, it
That's a
is. It's
really,
cool.
really, really simple one to do, and a really just go have fun with it. The main thing is having fun with it and enjoying it, enjoying the whole process. If you're enjoying it, the nerves can't get the better of you. If you're enjoying it, you're not going to have a fear. If you're enjoying it, you can create whatever you want.
Yep, absolutely true. Now, Anne Marie had a follow up to this. I'm not so much sure if it was actually a question or an observation, but it's got a question mark on it. So we'll treat it like a question. But she says, specifically to you, what about that amazing end question for the job interview?
Now, Anne-Marie's, well, Anne-Marie's one of my clients.
Hmm.
Um, I've forgotten what it is now. It depends what job you're going for, but a question you can ask in an interview right at the end to create an outcome that you want, and it works really well. This is what I used to use all the time was um, ask the interviewer right at the end, is there anything else I need to do in order to be the top candidate for the role? Now, there are two answers you can give. There's no, which means you've got the job,
That's right.
or at least you've got through to the next stage because he wouldn't be saying no. Or is yes, you could have done this, or it would have, or can you tell me a bit more about this? See, you're allowing yourself the time to fill in the gaps that you've possibly missed throughout the interview as well.
Mm. Okay.
That's it. But usually, what they'll say is no, and then immediately you'll say, okay, when can I start?
Yeah. The assumptive close. I love the assumptive close. I
You can tell I've
rarely use
worked
it
in
myself, but
I've worked in
that's good though. That's good. Yeah, that's basically taking control at the end of the interview, which is the best time to do it because that's when you're going for the one answer or the one response that you're looking for, which is you got the job.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It'll work. It'll work if you do it in the right way. It's got to come across confidently, obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to be confident throughout the interview. That makes it easier to be confident at the end.
Yeah. But if you've already visualized how that interview is going to play out anyway,
That's the
um, you're already in that state of mind. You're already in the right place and the right vibrational energy to go through that interview and turn up as that person you want to be to get that job because you've already got it in your mind. So
Mhm.
it's so powerful. You go and sit down in front of somebody when you already know you've got the job. You're just in such a nice place sat in front of them in that interview. You know you've already done it, even if it's just from a mindset point of view.
Mhm.
It just works. It's fantastic stuff.
That's pretty strong. That's pretty powerful. Um, as usual, I had a great follow-up question, and I don't remember what it was.
I love it when you do that. So it gives me a breathing space.
Ah, okay. It tied in directly to what we were just talking about there. It tied into, you're kind of ramping. Oh, no, let's not put it. You're kind of ramping up to that finale, and at that finale, you're asking your end question, as you called it, and the end question is basically the setup. Like what else do I have to do in order to get this job? Basically driving home. I want this job. I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm the person for you to hire.
That's it exactly, and that's how it comes across as well. That you're. It's very rare other people, unless they've used that before, will ask that question. They'll just finish the interview and go home and then sit there worrying whether or not they've got the job.
Right.
But at least you've shown them that you actually are excited and focused on having this job. That's what you want. You've shown them that that's really what you want. You're not there just to have an interview. You're there because you want that bloody job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why it works.
Especially
It
if it's
puts them
your dream
down.
job.
Yeah, it gives them the right. It pulls them up to the same vibrational energy that you're at.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They haven't got a choice. They haven't got a choice to be there. So it's power. It is powerful.
Oh, I know what the question was. The technique that you just described is great. And obviously, when we're trying to do something like a job interview, we're trying to maintain that nice, steady, positive feeling throughout. Um, but what we also find when we are dealing with, quote, reality, unquote, is that we get detours and we get sidetracks and we get, we get tracks that we didn't expect.
Yeah.
And so now we have to zig and zag and kind of try to get ourselves back on track, get ourselves back into that good feeling place. So if we're in the middle of a job interview and we find ourselves detoured, tangented, we're on a tangent and we didn't want to be on this tangent, what's the best way to get back? How do you get back to that good feeling place again? Because you're doing it on the fly. You're doing it kind of like, doing it on
That's
your
right.
feet,
Yeah.
so to speak.
I mean, for me, it's again, it's about bringing yourself back into the present moment. So you know what mine is. I'll clap my hands together.
Right.
Nobody, the person in front of the interview doesn't know what you're doing, but I'll clap my hands together, bring myself back into the present moment. I'll probably even say, "Oh, I went off on a bit of a tangent. Then let's get back on track." Something like that. So you've made them aware that you've realised that you've gone off track. So and
Mm.
pulled yourself back in. So they know now that you're able to do that as well. So that's a positive. Um,
That's
and then go down the track that you actually wanted to in the first place.
Mhm.
Back on plan, as it were.
Well, what you're really doing is you're taking, you're determined and consciously taking control of where you want your life to be, even when you sense that it's sliding off in a direction you don't want it to go to. Like, nope, we're not going there. I'm pulling it back over here.
Pulling it back over there. So you can do that in everything. But I mean, the beauty with job interview, it's like anything, any potential situation in your life, you're in 100% control of where it goes and what happens.
Right.
That person can ask you some questions, that's fine, but you can choose how you answer them. You can steer the interview in a direction that you want it to go by asking questions back. You're actually in control of the whole situation, not the person that's interviewing you,
This is
which
true.
is a great place to be.
And that's a great way to wind up the discussion today. Hey, Steve, before we leave, tell people how they can reach out to you as a life coach.
I just can't believe we've done an
I
hour.
know, it flies by, doesn't it? It's crazy.
Um, but yeah, they can reach out to me either on Facebook at Steve Rowell. You can direct message me on there. That's fine. I'll always get back within a matter of hours usually. You can check out my website at www.dolifeonpurpose.com and Instagram, Ste, so that's ste dot at ste dot Rowell, Rowell. So yeah, any of those mediums, find me a message, get in touch, we'll have a chat. I'm always up for having you can book a free consultation with me, free chat. We'll have a talk about things. I'll probably give you a load of free stuff around the law of attraction because I can't help myself because I'm not passionate about it. But yeah, just get on, have a chat with me, and we'll see where it goes. That's just good fun, isn't
Good
it?
stuff. I love it. All right. Well, Steve, I'll be talking to you later on this week on Thursday. Thank you to our live stream listeners and to our regular podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.